Let's bring Misty in for her legal expertise here. So, Misty, even if Attorney General Bondi is held in inherent contempt, wouldn't it be her own Justice Department that would be tasked with enforcing it? I mean, talk to us a little bit more about the practical implication of this if it were to happen.
Yeah, so this is the problem with the law and its actual enforcement, is that ultimately you end up back with the DOJ. So in general, if there were noncompliance, there would be the ability to seek criminal contempt. There would be the ability to go to court and file a civil action. And while those are still doors that are open, ultimately it would be the Department of Justice who would be moving in when it comes to enforcement. So they're obviously not going to prosecute themselves. So this is the issue where you have this law, but when it comes to actual enforcement, there aren't teeth. And that's why you see these alternatives like inherent contempt that are within Congress being something that's pursued in order to, as a remedy to cure these defects with this production.
Talk to me a little bit, too, about them adhering to this deadline on Friday and how a judge might view this. Obviously, the letter of the law said everything had to be there by Friday. But if this was brought to a judge and they were making a good faith effort to get the material out, would a judge say, no, you didn't have it all done by Friday, so you're not adhering to the law? Or would they give them some leeway in this process if it appeared they were doing the right thing?
In general, establishing that good faith exercise and saying that this is all being done above board and that it's simply a matter of needing more time. And the reasons that more time is needed is actually to protect victims. In general, you are likely to see a judge within reason give those extensions of time. But I think here, when we're looking at this from the public perspective, outside of the courtroom, there's reason to have skepticism. It's really the way that this is played out over time. But yes, if you were before a judge and it was, the first extension needed, you would generally get that additional time, so long as you could show you were doing what you needed to do to comply with the law.
Right. The question would be whether or not it was in good faith, which I think is
Correct.
One of the open questions here. So as far as opening any new criminal investigations, which is a big part of one of the excuses the DOJ is using on why they're slow rolling some of this release, based on what you've already seen that's been released, what type of investigations could still fall outside the statute of limitations?
So the types of things that I'm looking for as we see more and more documents come to light, more and more information come to light, is identifying potential co-conspirators and the types of cases that could be investigated and prosecuted that would not be barred by the statute of limitations is anyone who is a co-conspirator involved in the sex trafficking of minors. There's essentially no statute of limitations to bring those types of charges. Keep in mind, Ghislaine Maxwell, she was convicted of conduct that occurred between 1994 and 1997, prosecuted in 2020. This was one of the appellate issues. She tried to get her conviction overturned on statute of limitations grounds. Court of Appeals said no. So that is something that certainly is open to the extent that there's evidence of those who were involved in any aspect of Jeffrey Epstein's ring that could be subject to prosecution.
And Misty, I want to play for you something from Todd Blanche's interview with Kristen yesterday about Ghislaine Maxwell being moved to a prison camp. I feel like it hasn't gotten enough attention. Take a listen to this.
Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk to the extent it needs to. But just let me talk about the security issue. At the time that I met Ms. Maxwell, there was a tremendous amount of scrutiny and publicity towards her, and the institution she was in, she was suffering numerous threats against her life. So the BOP is not only responsible for putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety.
So initially said he wasn't going to talk about it, but then he essentially admitted that he at least played some role in her being moved. There's also questions about her moving from one type of a prison facility to something that seems a bit less in terms of difficulty. Is this normal protocol for the Justice Department? How serious would the threats have to be for her to move?
So this is incredibly unusual, and here's why. And it's really about the type of establishment she was in, and that she's moved to FPC Bryant, which is a prison camp. It is in minimum security, and It's not unusual for prisoners to move necessarily. The Bureau of Prisons would do an analysis if there was a safety concern, sure. But someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a designated sex offender, would not be eligible to go to a camp under any other circumstance. Maybe a lower degree, a low security prison, but not a camp like this one. So that is a highly, highly unusual move. And it's one of the reasons why people are thinking that there's more to that than meets the eye.
Especially the timeline, right? It happened right after the interview, and now he admits that he at least played some role in the movement. Obviously, a lot more to talk about as relates to that. Misty Marris, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.